Hello and welcome to the Nutrition Digest. We are your hosts and registered dietitians. I am Tara Valenti.
I'm Alicia Kugler.
And I'm Summer Merrick.
We are here to dish up the nutrition tea, to debunk the myths, to inspire, to inform, and to hopefully entertain. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that is especially relevant as the days get shorter, darker, and a little bit colder. Even here in California, it's been absolutely freezing out lately. We're going to talk about seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is such an appropriate acronym. You might notice a dip in your mood during this time of year, a dip in your energy or cravings. And we want you to know that you are most definitely not alone in feeling this way. We are going to break down why exactly this happens, how it affects food and movement, and what you can do nutritionally and behaviorally to support your mental and physical health. So I know Alicia was talking earlier about the weather in Canada right now.
Yeah. So we opened up the Weather Network this morning. Rez and I were just sitting there, and there's a polar vortex rolling in. So we were talking about, I think in Toronto, it was going to be minus 20 Celsius. So what is that in Fahrenheit? Minus 4 Fahrenheit, kind of like for the next coming week or two, which is seasonally cold. But most of Canada has already experienced a very cold, snowy, and even like the Northeast. Like I know New York and upper New York State, like New England area, like they've gotten a lot of snow already. And that makes it a lot harder because you already have kind of like the shorter days, it's cold, it's dreary, and then you add in this like extreme cold early in the season. And for a lot of people that are listening that are from a colder climate, we know that this is only the beginning, and this does last until early March. So I know for myself, practicing primarily in Canada and Michigan, before kind of the last year, this is a phenomenon that I see every single year. And every single year, I know even for myself, it's just this big shock of like, oh my God, the day's so short now. Oh my God, it's so cold. But that doesn't necessarily put down how intense it can be for some individuals. And so that's why I was like, we need to do this episode, because I think it's something that really hits home for people.
So tell us a little bit, what is seasonal affective disorder, and what's the difference between that as opposed to just like the winter blues?
So winter blues is just a shift in mood that we can see with like the shorter days. It can be the effect of like low vitamin D. It can be kind of just like you're cold, you're kind of like feeling a little less motivated. You just want to be all snuggly and warm at home, versus seasonal affective disorder is more, it's actually like a clinical type of depression that's tied to seasonal changes. And usually we usually see it kind of onset the end of October, beginning of November, and it goes right through to the winter. And you see kind of like almost like there's a flip switch come March when the days start to get a lot longer, and then into April with the time change. And we see it a lot worse more in northern climates that have the shorter days. So people are aware, but not always aware, but the further north you go, the shorter the days are. So we are blessed with, I think that the shortest day in California is still half an hour to 45 minutes longer than in Canada. And we still have quite a few like sunny days in California, despite the fact that it's still cooler, gloomier. I know, having grown up in Ontario, like we would have a month or two without any sunshine at all.
Wow.
So it's really hard because it's just like, it zaps so much. And so we see that low mood, low energy. And it can be really hard when you're like have seasonal affective disorder to even have like normal mood boosters really bring you up. So like, I think we all have that repertoire of like, oh, I'm going to have like a hot bath. I'm going to hang out with friends. I'm going to get into the festive mood or whatever it may be. And with seasonal affective, those normal things won't boost the mood the same as if it was just the winter blues. A lot of times we can see an increase in cravings for carbs and sugars because we're looking for that serotonin. We're looking for that kind of boost because there is a neurochemical link in there. We can see some sleep disturbances, which can go from a standpoint of being like more exhausted. So you can kind of have this phenomenon where you're tired but wired, where it's like you're exhausted and you want to sleep all the time, but also you can't sleep well through the night. So you're really kind of like all over the place. And then you also have a lot of like social withdrawal and apathy. So it's like you kind of really don't care to talk to anyone. You really don't care to see someone, even though those are often the things that can really help you just because it's cold and it's dark outside.
The first thing that I think of, so I went to grad school and did my dietetic internship in upstate New York, and it was pretty close to Canada, so similar weather pattern up there. And I remember I will like never forget being in my internship, and I was working in a long-term care facility, which is probably not the most uplifting environment. And I remember being in the office and I was charting on patients, and I looked out the window and it was like mid-April and it started snowing again. And I was like, I gotta get out of this place. Like, I literally stopped charting and started looking for plane tickets to anywhere warm. I was like, I think escape is the first thing that comes to my mind, because that just sounds relentless and horrible to me. But also, born and raised in California, I have like a very low tolerance for it, and probably haven't built up all the tools in my toolbox too, because I've never really had to.
I'm the same way. Growing up in Southern California, and it's just the same as in Northern California, especially inland a bit. It's nice and warm. And even now, even though it's chilly, it's still really sunny. So you can sit outside and still get that vitamin D, still get that uplift of your mood, as opposed to when it's constantly dreary or dark early and stuff like that, where you're just hunkered in by the cold and then the weather as well.
Yeah, and you can actually go outside and do outdoor activities even though it's cold here.
Sure.
I will add in there that it still can affect people, especially in Northern California, and I do see it with a lot of my clients. The one thing that I was talking to with some of my clients that are more north, especially I was talking to someone that was from my clinic in Michigan, and we were talking about how seasonal affective disorder in Northern California is a weird phenomenon because you do have sun. So you go from sun during the day to all of a sudden it's 4:30 and it's pitch black out. Versus in some more of like the northern states and in Canada, it's kind of like it's dreary all day and then it's just dark, and it's not like this abrupt shift. And I find that I struggle a lot more with the sunshine and then all of a sudden darkness. Like, this was my first year that I was here in October when the days really started to change, and for the time change, because last year I moved here after the time change happened. And I was like, what the heck is this? It is 5 p.m. and it's pitch black now. And I felt more, not necessarily seasonal affective disorder, but I really struggled there was about a 2-week period where I found that I struggled more because I didn't have the same toolkit in place that I already would have set up in Canada, having gone through kind of similar seasonal change throughout most of my life.
That's a really good point. I get that. The first few weeks after the time change, when it does get dark and you're used to like finishing your day at work and still having the sun outside, so you could still go for a walk, or you could still do things outdoors, or at least enjoy a little bit more of the light. And then to finish at like 4:30 or 5 p.m. and have it already be dark, it's really kind of a bummer and pretty discouraging at the beginning. It takes a little while to get used to.
So are there more like groups of people who are more likely to experience seasonal affective disorder?
I know, Summer, you were looking this up prior to our session today.
Yeah, so women are definitely more prone to getting and being affected by seasonal affective disorder, as well as younger adults, so people between the ages of like 18 and 30. Also, like you were saying, Alicia, those people who live further north of the equator, so up in Canada, Alaska, places that tend to be colder, though they are more likely to experience this. Also, if you already have a past history of depression or other mental or psychological, not issues, that's the wrong word, but things that you are affected with, if you already experienced depression, anxiety, things like that, or bipolar disorder especially, you're more likely to be affected by seasonal affective disorder.
Seasonal defective disorder.
It kind of is seasonal defective disorder, because you start to defect as soon as the temperature changes and the season change. So I feel like we should really rename it.
See, I came up with something. I'm like a trendsetter.
There you go. So let's talk about why it happens and the science behind it. Because I think my first thought, I'm also curious too, like why women are more likely to be affected by it, why it affects younger adults more so than older adults. I have no idea like why that would be. And seasonally affective disorder is definitely not something that I know a ton about. So I've like lots of questions. I'm very curious. But like, Alicia, could you fill us in a little bit on the science behind what is happening here and why we even experience this?
Yeah. And so I was kind of already alluding to a little bit of it earlier with the fact that there is an effect on our neurochemicals in our brain. So the less sunlight, less sun exposure, especially in those areas that don't get sun during all the time, it really does affect our melatonin. So less sunlight actually increases our melatonin. And so that can make us feel more sleepy and lethargic during the daytime. Serotonin can also be reduced because sunlight exposure actually increases our serotonin levels. And so with less serotonin, we feel our mood is less, we feel crappier, and we also have more cravings. So I know we've talked in previous episodes to great length about carbs, and carbs are good and wonderful. And that's why like carbs are the precursor to serotonin. And so that's why like sometimes with seasonal affective, you find you crave more carbs in general. And the big one that I talk a lot about with a lot of my clients and that can sometimes fully get rid of some of the symptoms is vitamin D. So vitamin D, you have reduced synthesis from sunlight. So we talk about vitamin D affecting our immune system. So that's why we sometimes see like cold and flu symptoms. We see it affects our mood, inflammation, energy levels. So for some individuals, seasonal affective is just a deficiency in vitamin D. Usually it's a lot more complex than that, but for some individuals, they might see symptoms and then they treat with vitamin D, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then we see the symptoms kind of go away. And that's quite often what I see with a lot of my clients. And so for myself, I know in my practice, it's like, hey, as soon as the seasons start to change, I'd be like, hey, October, we got to start adding that vitamin D back into our repertoire because it is really hard to get it from food sources unless we're chugging like a liter of vitamin D fortified milk, which is probably not something that we're doing every day. And we'll talk about dairy in a different day.
So that's actually a really good point, and I never really thought about adding that as a supplement. But also going back to your question, Tara, I wonder if one of the reasons that in general, younger people or younger adults tend to be affected by this could be because that is the group in general that spends more time outside normally. You know, maybe that's the time, or again, this is a very big generalization, but in the spring and summertime, that age group tends to be outdoors, doing more things outside. So therefore, maybe they're going to be a little more affected by the weather change. I have no idea.
I know with women, it more so has to do with actually our hormones, our estrogen, progesterone levels, and the interaction that affects kind of like the shorter days can actually affect our cycle. And that's why we usually say like women who are of menstruating age can have a more seasonal affective disorder because their hormones are more likely to be erratic because we don't have that regulation of our circadian rhythm. That is what actually helps us. And we have kind of like a disruption of the serotonin melatonin production.
Kind of nuts how circadian rhythm like touches on so many. It's like literally everything. It's like, is something off? You're like, it's probably related to your circadian rhythm. Like I feel like it touches on so many different aspects of things.
That are hormones. You know, it's one thing. You know, it's always going to be something. But it is strange. It's like it affects so many different parts of our world and our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to add in, there's one more group that is really affected by seasonal affective, and that's men with lower testosterone levels. So that's kind of like newer research. And I've seen it with some of my clients that are testing low in their blood work and have decided to, down the road, maybe pursue hormone replacement therapy. But we see when they've tested lower in their testosterone levels, it's not completely clear, but I think they say it's like combination of hormonal imbalances that can affect the body and the mood regulating neurochemicals and neurotransmitters in the body. And also testosterone levels and vitamin D are closely related too. So that as well. So we're not forgetting about the males out there, even though we're talking about women.
Yeah. Okay, well, we talked a little bit about some strategies. I think getting regular blood work is kind of key here because we can look at testosterone levels, we can look at vitamin D, and just all of the other things that could be contributing to this feeling. But what are some other strategies for that you recommend to clients for managing honestly, just the winter blues, but also more seriously, seasonal affective disorder?
I know for myself, I always tell them to try to regulate their food every few hours because a lot of people are craving more sugar and craving more carbs just to increase their serotonin production. I'm like, make sure we're balancing our food every single time we eat. Sometimes I'll even recommend more people into the fall and winter even wearing a CGM because we see kind of more erratic blood sugar levels just because they're trying not to give into their cravings, but they are because they're human and they want to feel better. And so I would say for some of these clients, what I've even recommended is them having a good array of options at home so they can easily put a meal together with food they actually feel like eating instead of having like so much structure. And then it's even like starting with an anchor of like, hey, make sure we're having breakfast and make sure it's a balanced breakfast that has some proteins, healthy fats, and carbs in it, because then that can help set up the rest of your day.
And then by stabilizing the blood sugar and mood, how would your CGM, what would that look like if they are normally eating pretty healthy and then now they're wearing a CGM? If any of our listeners wanted to do that, what are they looking for when they wear it?
We're looking for a more stable curve in terms of when they eat comes up a little bit and then comes down versus kind of like when we're like maybe not having the most balanced foods or we're under a lot of stress, maybe sleep is a little bit off, we'll see like big spikes and then crashes, spikes and then crashes. And we're trying to make sure it's a nice smooth curve.
That makes sense.
I know for some individuals that they want that data. They're very data centered. And I know I've had a few clients that like, I recommend that it's like, hey, I know you really want X, Y, and Z, sweet, sugar, carb, whatever. Let's, instead of having it all in one meal at the end of the day, or just having like lots of sweets for breakfast, let's kind of space it out a little bit more and pair it a little bit differently. So, and then like recommending that they have the data in front of them so they can actually understand a little bit more.
Right. And then also understanding those normal waves of that increased blood sugar and the little dips are totally normal. It's just that the big spikes and the big massive dips are what we want to avoid.
Yeah, 100%.
Got it. And then what else can we do to like support our natural serotonin levels?
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up because we are talking about serotonin and how important it is, and there are some things that we can actually do to help our body produce its natural serotonin in a way that isn't necessarily like giving into all of those cravings for sweets and foods that we want to be mindful of. Especially during this season, because, oh my gosh, it is holiday season in full effect right now. There's so many delicious treats around, and it can be tempting to kind of just like eat those all day long, especially if they're around and you're going to all kinds of events and like social things and things like that. So I feel like that adds a layer of difficulty to all of this too, because you might not be feeling your best. And here's all of these tasty treats and all of these people who are like, hey, you should eat these tasty treats. I made them by hand, like whatever. So it's like difficult in multiple ways. But let's talk about how to support our body's natural serotonin production. When we think about serotonin, most of us think about it because it's known for affecting our mood. We think about it as being one of those like happy chemicals. We all want serotonin. But it also plays a role in sleep. It plays a role in appetite. It plays a role in digestion. So it's not just a feel-good chemical. It helps to regulate other functions in our body as well. And the best way that we can support serotonin production through nutrition is by making sure that we're eating complex carbs with protein. So together at roughly the same time. So example of that would be like having a bowl of oatmeal with some nuts or having some brown rice with some salmon. So pairing your complex carbs with your protein. And I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, but just some examples. There's also some key nutrients that we want to pay attention to when it comes to serotonin production, and that is tryptophan and B vitamins. So we just had Thanksgiving here in the US. I think we're all familiar with tryptophan because we see it in turkey. It tends to make us feel a little bit sleepy after we have that big Thanksgiving meal. So turkey is a good source of tryptophan. You can actually also get it from tofu. So tofurkey, and just regular tofu. Oats and dairy is also a good source of tryptophan. And then for B vitamins, those are going to be in your whole grains. So things like brown rice or farro or quinoa, eggs, of course, and legumes as well. So if you're targeting those foods, that can be a great way to support your body's natural serotonin production. And these are not like rare, difficult to find foods either. It's a pretty straightforward way to just structure your meals in a way that's health forward, and it's going to help your body produce that chemical that makes you feel a little bit more regulated, a little bit more happy. And that's what we all want.
Yeah, there's something I wanted just to point out, and I've heard this a lot in the last couple of weeks talking to my clients, is again, the fear around carbs, right? It's circling back because I think there's so many fun things happening, like you were mentioning. All the fun holiday events are coming. Here in the US, we had Thanksgiving, so that is often a carb-forward meal. And again, I've had several clients really having their fears triggered about eating carbs. So just to circle back on how important it is, especially having these complex carbs, things like your oatmeal, things like your whole grains, not only are they good for our energy, which is what we always talk about when we're talking about carbs, it's our body's main source of energy, but it is really, really important to get these things because of all the other benefits that they have. They can help with our natural production of serotonin. They can help with our getting B vitamins and things like that. There's just a lot of benefits. So really cutting them out completely, again, is just not what we want to go with that. You know, we don't want to be going crazy with, 3 pies and 8 helpings of mashed potatoes and then the stuffing and everything else. Again, enjoy it in moderation. But there is a lot to be said about the benefits of carbs, even beyond energy production.
And they're delicious.
And they're, well, obviously.
So a couple of other foods that we want to make sure we're including, or more like nutrients that we want to make sure we're including to help support our mental health during this sometimes challenging time of year. Omega-3s. We should be paying attention to omega-3s all the time anyway, but we know that EPA and DHA are supportive of mood and brain health. All you really need to do is get 2 servings of fatty fish a week for this. Nothing too crazy. If you're not a big fan of fatty fish, you can go with a high quality omega-3 supplement. If you're unsure about which one to target, that's what we're here for. Reach out. Obviously, don't forget vitamin D. I feel like we talked about vitamin D a lot, but just as a reminder, that's another nutrient we want to pay close attention to during this time of year, particularly if you live in a cold, dark, northern climate. If you get a blood test done and it shows that your vitamin D is low, that's when you want to start considering taking a supplement. And typically the recommendation is 2,000 to 500 IUs daily, but make sure that you get your blood checked first, because it is a fat salt. And then finally, your magnesium-rich foods as well. A lot of people are not getting enough magnesium, and it's something that is very commonly supplemented. So something to think about there, but your magnesium-rich foods are going to help to support your mood. They obviously support sleep as well. Most people are taking magnesium in the form of like calm supplements and things like that to go to sleep. But magnesium is also important for your energy levels as well. So if you're feeling like low energy, your sleep isn't great, you're not in a very good mood, might want to consider checking out foods rich in magnesium, or maybe even supplementing with the magnesium. Pumpkin seeds are high in magnesium and also very seasonal right now. Spinach, dark chocolate, almonds, avocado. So all things that are delicious and we should be eating.
Quick question about magnesium. If you are someone who isn't getting a lot of it in your diet and you're taking it as a supplement, especially for sleep, does that still count towards enough magnesium in the day? Because a lot of clients will ask, there's different types of magnesium supplementation out there. Is one better than the other? And if we are using the kind to help us sleep, is that still getting enough of magnesium in general to support our diet and help us during the season?
So I was going to go and I'm going to address this twofold. So I was going to say the types of magnesium matter a lot that you're taking. So you have to be careful because not all magnesium supplements are the same. I would say yes, if you're supplementing. For the most part, you can kind of meet your needs. I would still say to incorporate magnesium rich foods because it is something that's more water soluble and like even like some electrolyte supplements will have magnesium in it. It is something we are going to poop out during the day. So it does help to kind of still incorporate those foods because just at nighttime isn't going to be enough. And for most of us in North America, we are lower magnesium, especially if you're stressed, if you work out a lot. A lot of the soil here is naturally very, very low in magnesium in comparison to other parts of the world like Europe and Asia. So they've done numerous studies to show that a lot of North Americans are magnesium deficient. So it is something worthwhile, like if you're getting headaches, if you're getting sleep issues, if you're getting muscle cramps, to consider looking into it. And it is something that's really, really hard to test in terms of blood work. So it is something that it's like you have to kind of like maybe a little bit of trial and error, see what works for you. If you're someone that your gut is a little bit sensitive, I would say proceed with caution. You want to look for a magnesium biglycinate or glycinate, and you want to steer clear of an oxide or a citrate, even a carbonate. Those three, the oxide, citrate, and carbonate, are going to draw water into the colon. So if you're someone that maybe you have issues going to the bathroom, it might be a supplement that might help with regularity as well. So something worthwhile potentially like to add in, but just be really, really careful about what you are taking.
So what about some other ways that we can help ourselves or help each other in terms of seasonal affective disorder that aren't food related? So what are some things like we can use for lifestyle tools? I think you mentioned light therapy. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so light therapy, it goes back a long time. I guess like the 1980s, light therapy has been around in terms of treating people with SAD. It's like 10,000 lux light box, 20 to 30 minutes. Usually we say like try to get it in the morning, but you can kind of do it. Like what I usually recommend for my clients is there is such a thing as a light alarm clock. And so basically it mimics a sunrise. So it gets gradually brighter and brighter and brighter. And then it kind of like takes over your whole room, and it is kind of mimicking what a sunlight exposure would be like. And you can also set up a light lamp near your workstation. The one thing I would say is it does take a few weeks of using it in order to actually have an effect. I know I was lecturing a client the other day. They had just got a sunlight lamp and they were like, I've been using it for a week and I feel no different, Alicia. And I'm like, just be patient. You have to really be consistent with it. Like a lot of habits, it's not going to magically take effect after a week. And I know we lecture a lot of people about consistency, and this is one of those things as well. You also might consider like if you have a big window, even if it's not like super bright, like maybe try to set up your workstation beside a window, whether you're in an office, like if you're in an open concept office, move to a different workstation. If you're working from home, maybe make sure you're setting up your desk near a window so you get that light exposure. And I know for me, I'm like a cat. I'm like, if there's a window, I'm going to be there. So it makes me happy. It doesn't matter like the time of day. It just kind of helps to regulate your natural circadian rhythm versus some offices. I know I've seen clients where they have no kind of windows or anything like that. And I would say like for them, either the light lamp or even just making it intentional to kind of step out of your office at some point during the day. I think the question that I sometimes get asked is like, if I have a sunlight lamp, is that enough? Do I have to step outside? I would say like maybe still try to step outside if it's not too frigid, just because a sunlight lamp is going to help, but it's not going to replace fresh air and being in nature and not being in a stuffy office. Sometimes it's just being outside of that workspace that can do a lot for your mood besides just the effect of light.
I wish I could have one of those sunrise clocks because I think they're so cool. And I love waking up when the sun comes up. And when I have the option to do that, I do that. And usually, actually, I think we did this in Nashville. Alicia, you were like, which room do you want? Because we were staying in a hotel together. And I was like the one with the bright window because I like the sun to wake me up in the morning. But sadly, I wake up like a couple hours before my husband most of the time. So like he would absolutely hate me if I had all of a sudden, like, well, gradually and slowly, like a sunrise, it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter in our room. And it's like 5 a.m. He would be like, yeah, I hate you.
That's so funny. I'd like to get one of those. I think that would be really cool.
So Cyber Monday sales. I was on Amazon. I was looking for one for in Toronto. I was like, oh, okay, maybe, because they're really inexpensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like I saw
I'll
some
look
really
that
good
up.
ones for like $30 to $50. I was like, this is a really good price. Like, yeah, you can get really fancy ones for like $150 or $200. But there's ones that are actually, you can kind of read the description and they'll tell you if it's the right kind of like wattage and everything like that. Don't don't ask me what wattage and stuff like that. I have no clue. I'm not going to try to pretend like I do know.
That's a great idea. My house in general is pretty dark. I have kind of a back deck and that faces the sun and faces the water, which is great. So my office faces out that way. And that's been fantastic because I do get a nice amount of bright light during the day. But my bedroom is so dark. So having something like that could be really helpful in the morning because it's very hard to get up when it feels really dark for me. And I'm not a super early morning person. Like I function great in the morning, but I'm not a get up when it's dark person.
Okay, dumb question. For the other lights that you were talking about, those don't have UV, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I know way back in the day, the old school like sun lamps, like 1970s sun lamps were like had UV rays.
Really?
You could get a tan, which is what some people were using them for. But I was just curious about that because
No, you want it to be UV free.
yeah.
Okay.
Or you're just going to be like,
Skin
yeah,
cancer.
yeah, or like I just got really wrinkly this year. Like,
I like how all of our thoughts went somewhere different. Alicia was skin cancer, you were wrinkles, and I was like, oh, you get a tan. That's the Southern California in me. Another thing that can definitely help with boosting our mood, can help with SAD. And if you're not experiencing SAD, if it's not that severe, but can even just help with mood in general, is getting some movement in. So any movement can help benefit us. Even like 10 to 15 minutes a day can be really helpful in boosting our mood. I know it can be hard, especially when it's chilly outside or dark. I'm seeing that even in my classes that I teach, my fitness classes, attendance has gone down a bit now that it's a little bit darker in the evenings. It's a little bit colder in the mornings. But honestly, if you're looking for a surefire way to boost your mood, getting in a little bit of exercise, movement, a walk, if it's too cold to go outside, doing maybe a little workout in your house, anything like that to get the heart rate up, do a little dance party in your living room. It's going to be really a good way to kind of a natural, easy boost of your mental health.
Mm-hmm. I usually like change my workout timing and my walking timing in the wintertime because I find that as soon as the days are shorter, I feel like I'm very like, oh my God, I have to cram so much into a short time. And I'm someone that I love walking before I start my workday and I love walking after I start my workday, just like the walking people, those speed walkers. So actually in the time that it's like the shorter days, I will rearrange my day so that it's like I get more a walk maybe before work and then sometime during the daytime when it is still bright. And I kind of save chores around my house or like stuff to do at home in the evening when it is darker. So then I don't have that gloom of like, I started my day with dark. I ended my day with dark. It's just darkness.
That's a great idea. But I think you are definitely a walking person. We all had dinner the other night and it was in the very low 40s. And Alicia and her husband had no problem walking all the way home in the wind, in the cold. Was your mood better by the time you got home?
It was very cold.
Fair enough.
I am a psychopath and I like to, in the mornings, one of the things that I find joy in is when I get up and it's dark out and I go to the gym, and if I can leave the gym before the sun comes up, I am like, I don't know why I think that's just like so cool. I'm like, yeah, I got my entire workout in before the sun even came up. And so I'll kind of race the sunrise to try to achieve this goal for whatever reason. But also where I work out, if I'm on the treadmills, if the sun is coming up while I'm on the treadmills, it hits so that it goes directly into your eyes. And I'm not about to stop my workout for any reason. So I'll just run through it with the sun blasting me right in the corneas, and it sucks. So that's another reason I like to make sure I'm out of the door before the sun comes up. But
I still think you're a bit of a psychopath.
Yeah. But you also get to see the sunrise on the way home a lot of times. And that's like really cool and nice.
That's nice.
Summer's facial expression of like horror, horror.
I hate waking up when it's dark outside. Like, I hate it. I don't care if I wake up just after the sun rises, whether it's the summertime or the winter time. I just hate waking up in the dark. It bums me out, like, massively.
Yeah. I just like, I don't like doing stuff at night. I just don't like it. And since it gets dark so early, it's just so much harder for me to get the motivation to do literally anything when it's dark out. Cause I'm like, okay, well, it's time for bed. So,
Yeah.
so for me, it's like morning or nothing, pretty much. I'll still do stuff in the evening. I just do not enjoy it. I'm basically the opposite of you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once it's dark, I'm like Alicia. I like to do stuff in the house. You know, I don't mind doing some things in the house. Again, my house is pretty dark anyway. But honestly, I'm not really about to run to the gym when it's still dark out. I love it. I admire all of you guys who do it. I really do. I think you're fantastic. It's just never going to be me. Ever.
Got to know yourself.
Yeah,
I know myself.
Exactly. Well, I think that leads really nicely into the next thing, which is like bedtime, wake up time. Because I think for some people, their bedtime shifts a lot and can get really wonky in the winter time or in the kind of the later months of the year because the days are shorter. But it is really important to have that circadian rhythm set where it's like the same bedtime, same wake up time, irregardless of the season, or as much as you can. And like even Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday, because if you're someone that's like, hey, Monday to Thursday, same bedtime, same wake up time, all of a sudden Friday, Saturday, you're going to bed at like 2 a.m, waking up at 10 in the morning, you're going to feel like shit come Monday. And that's actually going to perpetuate like a really negative mood. I know for a lot of my clients, they come home from work during the winter months and they tell me that they're like, hey, I come home, Alicia, at 5. I lay down and I go for a nap for an hour or two. I get up, I try to do stuff, and then I can't go back to bed. And then they're just stuck in this vicious loop of feeling like shit the next day. They can't sleep through the night. And I'm like, no, don't let yourself nap when you get home. Just go to bed earlier. But I think it's something that people think is so harmless, just to come home and go for a nap. And they don't realize how much that's screwing up their sleep quality at nighttime. And then the other thing is like coming home and sitting on their sofa. They don't want to do anything outside of their house, or they're kind of like pulling themselves away socially, and they're on social media scrolling and sitting on their phone for hours and hours, which is really going to disrupt their sleep. It's really going to disrupt their mood, and it's going to curate those lovely feelings of FOMO, which are not going to make you feel better too, because that is a real thing.
I was at a cafe yesterday, actually Andy Town in the city. If you've ever had their coffee, it's really good. But the one like on the Great Highway by the beach, and on, I think it's Friday through Sunday, they have these little signs up that are like, this is a tech-free zone, no phones, no computers, no doom scrolling. Like, you have to actually be here in the coffee shop talking to people, like enjoying your coffee, being present.
That is so cool.
It was really cool because you're in this very busy coffee shop and everyone's just there like talking and like being normal human beings communicating with each other. And I thought that was kind of awesome.
That's really cool. Do you guys have a good sleep routine or like a sleep pattern that you normally do, or a bedtime routine? What do you guys do?
Oh, me first?
Yeah, Terry, you go first.
I don't have a crazy sleep routine. Like, me and my husband will usually like watch an episode or two of something on the couch and like chill. And then it's just like wash my face, do my like skincare routine, brush, floss, put in my retainer, and like go to bed. But I'm pretty good at sleep. I'm not a person who really struggles with sleep or anything. My husband, on the other hand, is an insomniac. So he has his whole routine that occurs when I'm already in bed. He's like doing his sleep routine. He stays up a bit later than I do. But for me, it's pretty straightforward. Like, just clean the face, clean the mouth, get into bed.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Alicia? What do you do?
Yeah. So for me, I know that if I'm on my phone at all, like after dinner, nothing good's going to happen. And I've been kind of like watching my HRV over the last few months to kind of play around with like, if I get rid of my phone, does that help me in the morning? And it really has a lot. So I'm really big on like, as soon as the dinner's done, while Reza is washing the dishes, I'll let myself have any sort of last like scrolling, texting, whatever. And then I put my phone away in my bedroom on the other side of our bed. So it's like it's far from me, but it's still within our bedroom because it is my alarm clock. Well, hopefully I get an alarm clock for Christmas. I've asked for one. We'll see. And then we'll watch some TV. But then after that, like I spend a little bit of time like I'll like turn in, well, when I walk away from the TV, I turn on my audiobook, just pop my AirPods in and I'll like pack my lunch for the next day. I'll get my clothes organized for the morning, like wash my face, brush my teeth, like get myself organized. And that usually takes me like 20 to 30 minutes where I'm not really like looking at a TV or on my phone at all. And I find that time, and then I get into bed and I usually like have my audiobook on for like 5 or 10 more minutes on a sleep timer. And I find that really helps me that I'm not like, and I'm usually sipping on magnesium when I'm watching TV earlier. So it gives me a little more time for that to really take effect, which is really helpful.
That's a great idea. So speaking of, it sounds like all of us, I do the same thing. I watch a little bit of TV, but we've talked about that and touched on it. Alicia, you totally touched on it, but talking about screen time and mood, again, it's one of my big things that I'm looking to break the habit of doom scrolling. I still look at my phone in bed. I know it's not good for me. It is something that has really helped me over the last several months, just going through a lot of life changes. My mind kind of goes a little nuts. So it was kind of like the better of two evils, was more of the doom scrolling so I don't overthink. And because I also really struggle with sleep, that actually was a way to help me get tired enough to fall asleep. But it is definitely a habit I'm looking to break in the new year, 100%, now that things are kind of leveled out and just I'm feeling a little bit better overall. I am really looking forward to breaking that habit, but it is going to mean I'm going to have to change when I do Duolingo, because that is the time that I do that every night. And I do, for you guys to get jealous, I have a 2,203-day streak right now on Duolingo, so I really don't want to break that.
Yeah, I noticed that when I added you on there, and I was like, damn, that's like even more impressive than John, who's like a couple years deep into his streak, which I would thought he was like the craziest person ever, but turns out you're the craziest person ever.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 1,200, not 2,000. I think it's 1,200 in 2 days.
Either way, it's insane.
Thanks.
So like 4 years of basically.
About. Yeah. But to be fair, I will say just on the Duolingo train, I have really like tapered off. So I do like just one lesson at night. I don't do multiple anymore, but I am really looking forward to getting back on that.
Well, and like, to be honest, I'm seeing more and more evidence that's specifically talking about doom scrolling social media versus kind of like mindless games or something like a language lesson. I would say that's probably like the lesser of evils in comparison to like what we're learning in literature and what we're seeing in research in terms of the effect. And like, I always say, like, if somebody is really on their phone at nighttime, it's like, we're not saying don't be on your phone at all, but it's like, maybe you don't be on your phone in your bed. Maybe do your Duolingo outside of your bed. And then when you get into your bed, replace it with something else instead of like restriction and like, you can't be on your phone. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's like, no, play around with other things to kind of see what works for you. If there's something else that would help you be as distracted or as like zen and calm before you go to sleep.
Yeah, usually it used to be a nonfiction book because I love to read. So if I read fiction, I'll never go to sleep. I'll just keep reading. But if I read a nonfiction book, especially with something with science in it, that usually puts me to sleep.
So we just need more nonfiction in your life.
Yeah, I was going to say reading could be a nice alternative activity.
Reading.
Yeah.
Same.
I need a book, you guys. I feel like, I don't know. Well, actually, I have one that I'm in the middle of, but I got distracted and stopped reading. So I should probably finish that.
I'm not going to tell anybody the kind of books that I read because it's embarrassing.
Oh,
well, now you have
dirty
to.
Books.
Do you read like smut? Like
romance?
Court of Roses and
novels?
Thorns, that kind of stuff. That bandwagon. Fourth Wing.
What's that?
All that. Dragons, fairies.
Oh, cute. That's fun. Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Fantasy.
That's fun.
Fantasy stuff.
Different type of fantasy.
Different kind of.
Got it. I'll give you some good recommendations, Tara, at least if you like the same kind of books as I do. Maybe we should eventually start a nutrition book club.
Maybe.
Okay, I can tell Tara is not into it, and neither is Alicia. Okay. I'll start my
Anyways,
own nutrition book club with myself.
Enjoy that. It'll put you
yeah.
right to sleep.
Fact.
Yeah, I don't do the fantasy books, but okay, we have a couple of other things we wanted to touch on the seasonally affective disorder topic. Again, other than
Caffeine, alcohol, and water. Hydration.
yes. Yeah. So straightforward here. Like, we want to be mindful about our caffeine consumption. This is very personal, depending on each individual person. I had a coffee at like 3 p.m. today, and I'm probably going to sleep like a baby. But a lot of people are very sensitive to caffeine. Like my husband, his kind of rule is like no caffeine past 10 a.m. because anything later and it will mess with his sleep because he's super sensitive to it. So you have to kind of know what works for you and what doesn't, and be mindful of your actual patterns, because I feel like a lot of times people don't like consciously recognize that caffeine is what's affecting their sleep. They'll be like, I slept like crap yesterday and I don't know why. And it's like, well, tell me what you did. And then they had a coffee at 4 p.m. So
I love the people that say caffeine doesn't affect me at all. And then I talk to them about their sleep and like they may fall asleep, but then they are so restless and toss and turn. And I'm like, caffeine it's not just about the falling asleep. It's about the staying asleep and getting deep sleep.
the quality, yeah. Like, I mean, that's where a sleep tracker can actually be kind of helpful, debatable in terms of their like actual accuracy. But I've found that the patterns are relatively consistent with a sleep tracker. And you may notice, I mean, just be a scientist about your own life, if your sleep quality or your amount of REM sleep or whatever is going down on days that you have caffeine past, let's say 2 p.m., then like, let's maybe shift that. Generally, the recommendation is to not exceed 400 milligrams a day if this is an issue for you. And like I said, kind of paying attention to how it impacts your sleep quality or your anxiety or just your overall mood. Some people are more sensitive to it than others. Alcohol, of course, is going to be like absolutely not something you want to pour on this problem.
Literally.
Literally, because it can be easy to overconsume when you're having issues with low mood. Maybe you're not feeling your best. It's dark. It's gloomy out. You want to cuddle up on the couch with a glass of wine. Not saying you can't ever do that. But just like with caffeine, you want to be mindful of how it's affecting you. It could absolutely and is very likely affecting your sleep. We know that alcohol is terrible for sleep quality, and it obviously interferes with mood. And if you are struggling with anxiety, it most definitely can make that worse. And I wanted to ask you guys because I feel like this is just kind of a fun topic, but do you have any favorite non-alcoholic drinks that you like to consume in the evening to wind down?
Yes, I like, it's a brand. I think it's just the Celestial Seasonings, whatever, not over the counter, but the kind that you can get in the store, brand. And it's Bengal Spice. So it's kind of like a chai, but it's decaffeinated. And so I do that with a little bit of like vanilla creamer. And I'm just thinking I could put my magnesium powder in that, or that could be a good time to take magnesium as well. But I like that. It's warm. It still gets that spicy notes. You get that cinnamon. So you feel like it's kind of like a nice warm hug, and it's decaffeinated. So that's my favorite. And that kind of signals to me that I'm winding down and that it's time to get ready for bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got an array of like decaf tea at home, like all sorts of flavors and stuff like that. And I'm always like, every single time I enter a grocery store, I'm like, what teas do they have? What flavors? Is there anything seasonal? Can I have now? But then I also love like in social settings, like a phony Negroni. Like I just having, even if it's like been a really rough day of work, I'm like a nice like glass with ice and just a phony Negroni. It just makes me feel like I'm still having something without actually having alcohol, and just, kind of takes the edge off, because it's more of, and for a lot of people, that one drink after work, it is kind of more of a placebo effect of having that drink. So to have something you enjoy drinking that's non-alc can really help.
Yeah. So there are some really good non-alcoholic wines out there nowadays. Not really a habit of mine, but if I'm out and they have it on the menu, I'll get one. There's like a sparkling rosé that I've seen, and I wish I remembered the name of it, but I don't. But it's really good, like super delicious. And you put it in like a flute and you enjoy it and you feel like special or whatever, and you get to enjoy the taste, but not the alcohol. But my kind of go-to, I just do a splash of tart cherry juice with sparkling water.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that. It looks like red wine and it's tasty. I like the way that it tastes. So, and I like to have like a salty snack with it, like popcorn or something like that. And it's hydrating too. And we all know tart cherry is pretty good for you. So that's kind of like my go-to little mocktail.
So wrapping this up kind of and just kind of closing this up is what to do if you feel like you're experiencing sad. If you are feeling like you have this sadness that you can't shake, you're always down, you're really feeling like you can't, get yourself up or increase your mood. If you're not sleeping well, nothing's helping, your normal habits aren't doing the trick. If you feel like all of a sudden you're not hungry anymore, or like Alicia was saying, if you are having these massive appetite changes, you're really reaching for the carbs way more than you were before, having other like cravings. If you're feeling like you're withdrawing, if you're not as interested in doing the things that you normally love, if you're withdrawing from your loved ones or your friends or social situations, or losing interest in your activities that you normally do or that often bring you joy, that may be a time that you really want to reach out to a therapist or a medical provider, a counselor, whomever you have, or even if you don't have someone that you speak to on a regular basis, it may be time to really seek one out and reach out for some help, because there are things that you can do and people who can help you. Mm-hmm. It is totally treatable. It's very highly treatable. With therapy, with things like the light therapy, lifestyle shifts, getting better sleep, and also sometimes medication. All those things can kind of help us with those symptoms, alleviate some of these depressive symptoms, and elevate our mood.
Yeah. And I would say like, it's not taboo that if you find you're really struggling to seek out like some medication too. Like, I think there used to be a negative stigma around it, but I do have quite a few clients that is the thing that really helps them. And they're just using it seasonally during the wintertime, and it makes a big difference. So I think we need to kind of like remove that stigma of, if you need something, like get the help that you need. It's not that you have any lack of willpower or it's any less of you. It is biology, it's environment, it's the connection between light, food, and mood. There's so much here, and it's really important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself.
And with that, thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Nutrition Digest. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And thanks again for joining us.